Good morning. Welcome to worship with the community of the First Unitarian Church of Omaha. My name is Valerie Palacios, and I am the reader this morning. Whether you are attending online or in person, I am glad you have chosen to join us for worship. Worship, which means to remember that which is of worth. Thus, we gather together in community weekly to reground ourselves in our highest values. A special welcome to any visitors today. This congregation is a community of all ages and abilities. It is a community with a rainbow of gender and sexual identities. It is a community of diverse cultural and class backgrounds. We draw from many sources of inspiration and share common liberal religious values. Whoever you may be, we welcome you to bring your whole self into this community. If you are joining us online, I encourage you to create a YouTube account and sign into when you attend online. This will allow you to participate in the comments for joys and concerns and more. All are invited to subscribe to our channel and share videos you like with others. Our church occupies the traditional treaty lands of the Omaha and Otoe-Missouri tribal nations, whose sovereignty existed long before the state of Nebraska. We would also like to express our respect to the Ponca tribe of Nebraska, the Winnebago tribe of Nebraska, the Santee Sioux tribe of Nebraska, and all other tribes represented in the Omaha area. Let us all continue to educate ourselves and support causes, charities, and rights of Indigenous peoples in the area. Now let's hear from Reverend Woodbury about today's unusual and unique service format and how you can participate.
All right, I'm going to sneak in some announcements here. Maybe. Kindness is going to help me. And Sarah Copeland has something to share as well.
Hi, I thought I'd switch it up a little bit so my face looks different for you this week. I'm talking about our costume categories for our Heart and Hand auction party today because we're changing them up. So, as usual, we have 3 costume categories for our party, and we're keeping it basic with classic costumes. You can come in your favorite classic Halloween costume, or you can put a little twist on it. For example, you could be a sand witch. You can come as group costumes, like a family or a group of friends, or you could just come in your costume and see if you can form a group that night. And the new category is called everyday costumes. That is a huge trend in Asian countries these days, but it's also super fun. So a costume could be walking to work on a windy day, or a person waiting for the elevator. And to visualize it for you, today I am a Unitarian Universalist trying to get you to sign up for a committee. As a little treat for you, we also have a video that Rev Shari is going to show all of you now.
It's true, I looked out there and I was like, where's Sarah?
This is Donna Neff. Greetings from northwestern North Dakota, where it is clearly fall here, deep into fall. I'm here to put in a plug for our wonderful Heart and Hand auction. The deadline for donations is coming right up. Here we are in October 14th. So I know us UUs love to procrastinate, but please, we'd love to have each of you donate something to the auction, especially the Heart and Hand part, where you offer a little bit of something of yourself or a connection to others. An example, I make a pan of homemade lasagna. Since we don't have our dear Roman, maybe bake some homemade cookies or have a small gathering at your home where you share soup and conversation, or like Nadine used to do, lead an outing to an ethnic restaurant where you get the appetizers and everybody else gets the meal, that sort of thing. Because it's one of the main sources for us to get together for the whole rest of the year. I want to give a huge thank you to all of you who have supported the auction so far. The donors, our catalog is growing daily, and a special shout out to Sarah Copeland, who stepped up to chair the auction this year when I was unexpectedly unable to do so due to family considerations. So I look forward to seeing all of you in November, and meanwhile, let's have a wonderful auction. Thank you. Bye.
Yay, Donna. Let's see, before I tell you about today's service, I also want to say a special welcome. We have some guests here from the boards of trustees of both the Lincoln Unitarian Church and Second Unitarian here in Omaha, and it's wonderful to have them with us and to be building connections across our congregations. So this is Ask the Minister Sunday, sometimes called a question box service. This means you can ask a question of the minister, that's me, and have it answered during the service. Your question could be related to theology or ethics. It could have to do with our Unitarian Universalist tradition or spiritual practices or pastoral concerns. It might be related to current events in our world or the church. Or it might be some other burning question or simple curiosity that you bring with you here as a seeker, even just something you wonder about me as the minister. If you're online, you can submit your questions in the YouTube comment area. You can do that at any time, and I'll look through them when it's time for me to answer questions later. Those who are in the sanctuary should have received an index card and a pencil on your way in. If anybody didn't get one and would like to write a question, you can stick your hand up, and our ushers will bring them to you. Okay, we got a few up here in the choir who snuck in early from the side, probably. As we move into so I'll invite you to write your questions during the prelude time as Jay is playing on the piano for us. And then as we move forward in the service into the chalice sliding, the ushers will collect those questions, and you can just pass them down the row. I will answer as many questions as I can during the sermon portion of the service. We might not have time to get to all of them, we'll see. I may also respond to some of them in the future in sermons or blog posts. And there might be times when it feels more appropriate to just connect individually. So if you're open to that possibility, you can include your name on the note card. I hope you enjoy this more impromptu type of reflection today. And again, those online, you can put any question you might have in the comment section of YouTube. Now, as you're considering your questions, we'll enter more fully into worship with the prelude. All right. If your question is complete, you can pass your card down the aisle. And Erica, would you mind collecting them and handing them to an usher? And I invite forward Lynn and Tommy Thompson to light the flaming chalice this morning. Very glad to see you both here again, and anyone else who's come back since our elevator is working again, thank goodness. Would you all join me in the chalice lighting words? Spark of the Spirit, cupped in earth's embrace, light of love, alive in all creation. As we kindle this flame, we rekindle our connection to the sacred web of life. Words of Lisa Friedman.
Spirit of life and love, why is there something instead of nothing?
Why do wishes sometimes come true when spoken beneath the stars?
Why, after millions of years of life on this earth, does death still sing?
Why is it so hard for people to learn how to love one another?
Why does my heart laugh with the first flower of spring?
Questions rise up within our souls, born of fear and delight, sorrow and confusion.
Questions live within us, shaping our choices and our search for truth.
Help us to embrace them and to grow. I invite you to rise if that feels good in your body and join in singing our opening hymn, number 346, Come Sing a Song with Me. Each week, we practice sharing with others through a community offering. Half of the undesignated gifts are donated to a local cause, which resonates with Unitarian Universalist values. If you're online or prefer to use your phone to give, you can use the QR code or link. For October, our Share the Plate recipient is Claire Cares Food Pantry at Claire Memorial, a congregation in North Omaha with whom our church has long been friends. It's almost Thanksgiving time, and Claire is starting to prepare to provide turkeys and other traditional Thanksgiving fare at November's food pantry. Inflation is of course, hitting everyone, and especially people who are served by food pantries. The Claire Pantry is this month's recipient, as well as our regular collection of canned goods that are then taken over to the pantry. Please give what you can and help this church to serve members of our community in a time of need. Thank you. Thank you for your generosity. Each week we take time to lift up those things that are bringing joy to members of this gathering, as well as those challenges we face for which we might like some support. I invite Colin to come forward to share with us. I know we had several submitted beforehand. You can always write them in the sanctuary in the binder that's at the back of the room.
From Sarah Copeland, saying thank you to Christina Strong for scheduling a deep cleaning night of the nursery, and thank you to everyone who showed up to help. It felt good to clean the space our littlest community members are using, and to organize the toys and books and craft supplies. And from Carol Ramsey, we have every day I light a candle and pray for the safety of my longtime friend, Samira, who lives in Beirut.
All right, will you join me in a centering song? It's in the gray hymnal number 391, Voice Still and Small. This music, I invite you into a time of contemplation. You might wish to check how you're seated, see if your spine is erect, perhaps make your hands comfortable in your lap, and let your eyes slide closed. After a common prayer, we will hold a time of shared silence, which I'll end with the sound of the bell. God of many names and beyond all names, our questions fall like rain on a pond, rippling out into the future. How will I get through the week? Why are the seasons different than they used to be? When will peace come to those places most bereft? Deep inside, we listen for answers. And come what may, we keep singing. Even here in this place of respite, questions drum down like autumn rain on the roof. Why are we here? Will we go or will we stay? What will remain the same, and what will change? We turn within for answers. We listen to one another. We look to the children and wonder what the future needs. And always, always, we sing. Voice still and small, help us to remember who we are as we listen. Wisdom, deep inside all, help us to heed you as we choose. May we hear you call, and may we never stop singing. Amen. time of silent contemplation. All right, it's time to play Ask the Minister. Are you ready? Am I ready? Let me start with one here from the chat. If you could use the Star Trek transporter to beam yourself somewhere, would you do so? Consider you'd miss the pleasures during walking, riding, or driving to a destination. Well, I think I definitely would use it to visit family more easily, and people far away that are hard to otherwise see. But I agree with Gary. I also love walking, and I even like road trips. So, of course, we'd have to consider, like the carbon impact too, right? Was there no carbon impact of the transporter? That would count for a lot. What is your favorite fall smell? When the leaves have been accumulating for a while and they get kind of a crunchy, there's a kind of an earthy smell. I love that smell. Let's see. If you could augment yourself with technology to improve some aspect of yourself, what kind of tech would you choose? Well, if there was any tech that could eliminate chronic pain, I would be there for that. How does love being at the center fit in with your spirituality? So this is referring to our new set of values that were adopted at the national level at General Assembly in June with love at the center. And for me, love has always been at the center. The phrase that I have most held dear from the now historic principles and sources is the transforming power of love. I think that's what we're all about here in church, and that's what I'm all about as a minister. What was your favorite class in seminary? What comes immediately to mind was one of the first classes I took, which was a class on ritual and paganism with Margot Adler, and we did a lot of chanting that really transported me. And I also love ritual. Let's see. Oh, good morning from a first-time viewer. We hope you visit in person soon too. And we have somebody else tuning in from downtown Omaha. Very cool. If you weren't a minister, what would you be doing as a profession? I've wondered about teaching before. I don't know if I could. I really admire people who do that, who are educators for a living. I'm not sure how well I do in the bureaucracy and the system and all of that, but I love helping people develop and learn. So that would be one I would consider. What's your best experience as our minister during the pandemic? Well, it depends on what time period we define as pandemic. I think what comes most immediately to mind is my installation service, which was like a year and a half after I got here, because I was holding out for not only when we could be hybrid, but also when we could be comfortable with the choir singing. I really wanted that music as part of my installation service, and the congregation went all out and had beautiful things hanging and a wonderful reception outdoors, and we had people come from many cities and states around to support our congregation in the joy of this shared ministry, and that made it a very special occasion. Oh, and there was also some special dancing as well. That was pretty cool. Please tell us what the Clergy Action Group is working on. So there's a progressive clergy action group that formed a year and a half ago, and we actually, this is a timely question because we are hosting a press conference tomorrow at, I think it's 4 o'clock, but let me double check that. And it'll be on the steps of First Central Congregational, which is just a few blocks down from us here in Midtown. And yeah, 4 p.m. is that press conference. Anyone is welcome to come. We're particularly speaking for the Support Our Rights initiative that is on the Nebraska ballot this fall, and offering a religious voice in support of reproductive freedom and sovereignty over our own bodies. Will you auction off a hymn this year? I will, now that I've gotten this card. I will offer a commissioned, on your topic of your choice, little chant or song that I will write. What poet do you find most inspiring? David White comes to mind as one of my favorites. Not to be too stereotypical as a UU, but I do love Mary Oliver. Yeah, those are two. How do we find serenity in this politically and socially divisive time in history? For me, connecting regularly with other people who get that feeling and who care is part of my self-care. So, being part of a community like this, whatever other communities of friends that you have, and if I can hearken back to that prayer and our centering song, to keep singing. Yeah, and also, I think UUism attracts a lot of people who care deeply about the world, which means sometimes our sensitive hearts can really get hurt by all of the hard things that are happening and all of the, whether it's close to us or far away, things that it feels like we can't do much about. So, picking 1 or 2 things that I'm going to act on, that I can use my agency and work with other people and have a sense of, working for the greater good, and then giving myself some grace that I'm not responsible for doing everything, right? We can't do everything. So having a little humility about that, I think, is part of what allows me to also have moments of serenity. What effects has the recent Article 2 adoption had on the UUA and our congregation? So this is the change from the principles and sources to these new values that you might have seen represented in the shape of a flower. I don't know that it's had a lot of immediate effect. If you consider that the previous iteration had been with us since the 70s, I think the last change was made in the 80s, which was the 7th principle. I think we're going to live into these over time. And of course, they're not entirely new. They're a new way of expressing values that we've held. I think one of the ways that they'll have the most impact is in how new people coming in understand who we are as a faith and can see themselves in it. And it's my hope and belief that a greater diversity of people will be able to connect who they are and what they're looking for and what they value with who we are as a Unitarian Universalist people. I wonder when you personally made the decision to become a faith leader and why. So I was pretty restless about what was my calling in life as a young adult, and I was working in the nonprofit field, and I was doing a lot of volunteering at my church, my home congregation, where I was a member. And I had a significant other suggest to me, one evening as I was, whining again about, oh, I don't know, I know this job is, I'm doing something, but it just doesn't feel quite right. And he said, well, you spend all your time volunteering at the church and doing these social action things and meditating, and why don't you just go be a minister already? So that planted the seed. It was another decade before that seed ripened, and I felt like, yeah, that's it, and this is the time. Who has been your mentor, and how were you drawn to them? Oh gosh, I've had a lot of mentors in my life, as I would guess most people here have. If we're lucky, we get to have a lot of mentors. One of my home congregation ministers, Mary Ann, was a wonderful support. She shared a lot with me about doing rites of passage and had the congregation ordain me for the narrow purpose of being able to officiate weddings, just as we have since done for Melissa Gibson. Just shared very openly about the reality of what is it like to be a minister. And the other one I'll mention is Dennis McCarty, who was the minister at my internship congregation, where I did my ministerial internship in Columbus, Indiana. Some of you may remember Dennis. He was here last fall and did the musical about Servetus. And he was a wonderful model of how you can bring your whole creative and artistic self into ministry. If you didn't hear him, he plays guitar and wrote and sang all of these songs as part of his ministry. What are your plans for during your sabbatical? So I will have my first sabbatical after 9 years of ministry next summer, July through October 2025. I'm very grateful to this congregation for honoring that part of our agreement. I don't entirely know. I know that my family is we're planning to take a special trip together that's a little bigger and farther away than what we normally manage when I take just a week off. And we're thinking Yosemite, which is one of my favorite national parks I've been to, and my husband and daughter have not been there. And so we're thinking about doing that in July, and my parents and my brother and niece, who's very close with my daughter, will probably join us and make that a special trip. And I may even get to see some of my dear friends who were in a meditation group with me a long time ago who live in the Bay Area. Let's see. Evangelical Christians have gone bananas about biblical revelation and the 7 Mountain Mandate. Has the UUA addressed this insanity? I've heard about the 7 Mountain Mandate just from all of the podcasts I've been listening to about cults. No joke. But I don't know I don't know if they're talking about it at the UUA. I tend to be of the school of thought that I'd rather put my energy into creating what I care about than fighting what I'm concerned about, if that makes sense. So, focusing on that centering of love and being allies to people who are in the line of persecution at this time. Letting our full light shine as a congregation and as individuals is my answer to that. And of course, political activism. What lights your spirit? Nature is probably at the top of my list. Just getting out in the woods, getting out of my head, getting into my senses, all the colors and textures, the sounds of the birds and the insects, the feeling of the sun or the breeze on my skin. Nature is very restorative for me. This photo that's up there is actually from the annual ministers retreat of our Prairie Star chapter of the UU Ministers Association, which is kind of like Kansas through Dakotas and Minnesota down to, I think, Missouri is the collection of states. That happened last week, and I got to do some forest bathing with a guided forest specialist as a group, and it was a really wonderful experience that was even deeper in tune with nature than when I just go out by myself. And I think, my other lifelong answer to that question of what lights your spirit is music. I am delighted that my child has gotten old enough and my life has developed in such a way that I could finally join a choir again, which I had quit when I started seminary. I love singing. And I guess that's the last answer I'll give to what lights your spirit is snuggling with my kiddo. What is your favorite food? I like comfort food, soups and stews, like thick stews with lots of beans and vegetables, and just makes you feel really nourished in your body. What are your favorite hymns, and are there memories that go with them? Spirit of Life is the one that comes first to mind. When I first became a Unitarian Universalist in 1996, my first minister at my home congregation, Barbara Carlson, had us singing Spirit of Life every week with the kind of prayer and centering time. And it's the UU song that's probably deepest in my heart. I also love, what's that one in the Teal hymnal? Rising Green. Rising Green. Let's see, anything else in the chat? What color of the rainbow has the most meaning to you and why? I've always been more one for cool colors, and my favorite color is like a periwinkle or cornflower kind of color, like a blue that has a little hint of purple in it. Although I've noticed lately I've started to like colors that I used to really not like. Like, I picked this orange mug this morning. I was like, what? I used to hate orange. I think maybe, many of us will kind of broaden out over our lifetime and become more well-rounded, so maybe I'm doing that with colors. Let's see. A lot of people feel churches shouldn't be involved in politics, but UU is very social action focused, which I like. How do we distinguish the two, politics and social action? Should we have that separation? How do we make this different than outright conservative churches that have political speakers? I think there definitely are churches that cross the line. We are pretty careful here about, this is not a partisan place. Those values that from Article 2 that were named, love, equity, all those things, I think it's very appropriate that as a people of faith, we put our faith into action by working for the world beyond the church to reflect those values and to express those values. So I'm so pleased that we have an active UU the Vote group right now working to get out the vote and make people aware of those issues that are on the ballot, and know the difference between the one that would restrict reproductive rights and the one that would preserve reproductive rights, and so on and so forth. So how do we distinguish between politics and social action? I don't know that I care to make the distinction. I think, the personal is political, the political is spiritual. Life is one indistinguishable whole, as Gandhi said, and they all run together. So I think for each person, it's a matter of how do I live in integrity with my values? And we won't necessarily all come to the same answers about how we want to participate in the political process or even how we vote on different things. Certainly not necessarily what candidates we vote for. But I think, I hope that being part of this community gives us a greater sense of hope and agency, because we know what we're all doing together is more than any one of us could do individually. And I hope that it gives us courage and a sense of grounding and clarity about what our values are and why it matters so very much that we become part of the transforming power of love in the world. And I think what we do differently than some of the churches that have gone too far is we would support like candidate forums or issue forums, things like that help people understand the issues and understand what different candidates stand for. But we would not cross over into endorsing or even appearing to favor one party or candidate over the other. Truly, religion, faith is not a partisan place. And I think there probably are people in this room right now from many different political parties, be it Democrat, Republican, Socialist, Green, Libertarian, whatever else is out there these days. Okay. Here's how I'm going to interpret this question. What do you love about stewardship, and how can people get involved? I actually have a fundraising background, and I like stewardship. Especially in the context of church, because it's all about our values. Like, what do we care about, and why does it matter that this church is here, that we are feeding people's spirits, that we are shining that light of love that does not leave anyone out into the Omaha metro area, out into Nebraska, and onto that Capitol building and wherever else. And as far as getting involved, there are lots of ways to get involved. We'll have calling teams that will be reaching out to people. It's actually really fun to have conversations with people about why they care about this place and think it's important that it's here and what their hopes are for the future. So those can be fascinating conversations to be part of, and a way to get to know someone a little more deeply than you might just, make it small talk at coffee hour. And if you want to get involved, Gary, raise your hand. You can talk to Gary, who's our stewardship chair. Yeah. What are your favorite cult podcasts? I've been writing on Medium about cults, so anyone can go on there. It's free. I started out listening to a little bit culty, which is very good. It's hosted by a couple of people who were in the Nexium group and then woke up and got out and actually helped bring the whole thing down. And the founder of that cult is now in jail. He'll probably spend the rest of his life. But the one I've come to probably call my favorite at this point is called Indoctrination. And it's hosted by Rachel Bernstein, who is a therapist who has spent her whole career, and I think she's probably 50s or a little older, working primarily with people who are survivors of high control groups and controlling relationships, which have very similar dynamics. And what I appreciate about her podcast is how deep her insight is into the psychology of what happens when someone is sucked into a controlling group and how they can heal from that experience. And that can include, New Age groups. It includes a lot of the people who come on have been through fundamentalist experiences within Christianity. Some of them are political groups, so it really runs the gamut of who's included as a survivor. I'll leave it at that. Okay. I want to say welcome again to our friends from Lincoln and Second Unitarian who are visiting today, and to all of you who might be here for the first time. Our format is a little bit different. Every week I do something like this once every year or year and a half, but if this is your first time, come again. It'll be different next time. I invite you now to rise for our closing hymn, number 1024, When the Spirit Says Do, and we'll do the verses that are indicated there under the music. It gives some different words, and we'll do those.
To do the
words of Rainer Maria Rilke, translated by Stephen Mitchell.
Have patience with everything unresolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves.
As if they were locked rooms or books written in a very foreign language.
Don't search for the answers which could not be given to you now, because you would not be able to live them.
And the point is to live everything.
Live the questions now.
Perhaps then someday, far into the future,
You will gradually, without even noticing it, live your way into the answer.